Changing the subject of complex formula with Adam Maths Tutor. Here's the beginner question, one of the easier questions that you're likely to find on this topic. In algebra, the subject of the formula is the variable that is expressed in terms of other variables. Changing the subject means rearranging the formula to make a different variable the subject. For this question, we want to make x the subject. This means that we should have x in terms of everything else, or x equals with everything else on the other side. When the variable that you're attempting to make the subject appears in multiple terms, it's likely we'll need to use factorizing to help us answer the question. To do this, we'll need to isolate all of the terms that involve the desired variable. When you have brackets, it's often useful to expand these so that we can identify all of the terms that involve x. On the left-hand side, that will give me 2x plus ax, and on the right-hand side, bx plus 3b. To be able to factorize so x only appears once, rather than 3 times, I'll need to isolate all of these terms that involve x. By isolating, I mean having all of them on the same side with everything else on the other side. Notice how 2 of the terms that involve x are already isolated on the left-hand side, so the quickest way of completing the isolation would be to subtract bx from both sides, giving me 2x plus ax minus bx on the left-hand side, which is equal to 3b on the right-hand side. I've now managed to isolate all of the terms that involve x with all of the terms that do not involve x on the other side. Now I can factorize. Factorizing is the process of breaking down an expression into simpler parts or factors that when multiplied together give the original expression. Since these 3 terms all involve x, I can take a factor of x outside the bracket. X multiplied by 2 would give me 2x, x multiplied by a gives me ax, and x multiplied by negative b would give me the negative bx, and this will still be equal to 3b. Now you can see that x only appears once, making it easier to make it the subject. As x is being multiplied by this whole bracket, I can divide by the whole bracket to isolate x. On the left hand side, I'll have x, and on the right hand side, 3b divided, which can be represented using a fraction with the terms inside the bracket underneath, meaning that x is equal to 3b over 2 plus a minus b. Alternatively, if I went back to this step here, where I isolated my terms involving x, and I decided to bring all of the terms that involved x to the right hand side, with everything else on the left hand side, and completed the same steps from then, I would have ended up with x being equal to negative 3b at the top of the fraction, and then all of the same terms but the inverse signs at the bottom of the fraction, so negative 2 taking away a but adding b. Both of these are correct and both will get you full marks in the exam. On to the intermediate question with an increase in difficulty. We are making x the subject of the formula. If the variable that you're attempting to make the subject of the formula appears as part of a denominator, you'll have to start by multiplying through by this denominator to eliminate it. So my first step would be to multiply through by x minus b. Because I'm multiplying 2 terms, this will introduce a bracket on the left hand side, as I need to multiply d by both x minus b, and this will be equal to the right hand side, which is x plus c, with the fraction now eliminated. It will help to expand the bracket so that I can identify all of the terms that involve x, giving me dx minus bd on the left hand side and x plus c on the right hand side. Isolating the terms that involve x, there's no quicker way of bringing these to the left hand side or the right hand side since I already have one on each side. I'm going to choose to isolate the x terms to the left hand side, which will involve subtracting x from both sides and then adding bd to both sides to bring all of the other terms to the right hand side. This will give me dx minus x on the left hand side and then c plus bd on the right hand side. Now I've managed to isolate the terms that involve x. I'll factorize, bringing x outside the bracket, leaving me with d minus 1 inside the bracket, which is equal to c plus bd. And my last step to isolate x will be to divide through by the bracket, d minus 1. So x is equal to c plus bd over d minus 1. And for the same reason discussed in the beginner question, I can also have a solution of x equals negative c minus bd over 1 minus d. On to the advanced question, one of the trickier questions that you're likely to find on this topic. We need to make u the subject of the formula. Since u forms part of the denominator of one of the terms, I'll need to start by multiplying through by u to eliminate the denominator. Multiplying the left-hand side by u will give me 1 multiplied by u at the top of the fraction, which will just be u, and this is being divided by f, which is equal to 1 once the fraction has been eliminated, plus this term is separate to the one where we multiplied through by u, so we will have to multiply by u here also, giving me u over v. Before adding and subtracting terms, it's actually quite helpful if you don't have them written as denominators. So it will be quite helpful if I then multiply through by f to give me u equals 1 multiplied by f is f, and u over v multiplied by f is uf over v. Again, I'll repeat this process to multiply through by v. U multiplied by v is uv, f multiplied by v is fv, and since I've multiplied through by v, this will eliminate the denominator and leave me with uf. So the starting formula and this formula are actually equivalent, but this one is a lot easier to manipulate and isolate the terms that involve u. I'm going to subtract uf from both sides, giving me uv minus uf on the left hand side and fv on the right hand side. Now I've managed to isolate the terms that involve u, I can factorise, bringing u outside the bracket, leaving me with v minus f inside the bracket, and is equal to fv. And my last step, dividing through by v minus f, will leave me with my subject u, which is equal to fv over v minus f. As discussed in the previous two questions, u could also be equal to negative fv over f minus v. Here's a question that I've completed earlier. It appears as though I've made some mistakes. Pause the video and see if you can spot what they are before writing some corrections in the comments below.
Thanks for watching. If you found that video useful, don't forget to hit the like button and leave a comment. If you're struggling with topics or finding maths difficult, subscribe and turn on notifications to receive regular updates about new video tutorials and other useful content. You can visit and follow all of my socials by clicking the links in the description below.